The story opens by framing Tom as the kind of man for whom life has been one long, uninterrupted yes. His father, a wildly successful author, turned words into a publishing empire, and when both parents died in an accident, Tom inherited not just the money but the machine that prints it. The script positions him as rich, charming, and fundamentally bored, a man who treats existence like an endless afterparty he owns the lease to. He wakes up beside his girlfriend Jane, who is genuinely in love, but the narrative makes it clear she's just another track in his casual playlist. The film immediately undercuts his glossy privilege with that empty Manhattan dream. Tom drives through New York and finds it deserted, like the city has turned into a high-budget set after rap. He runs, shouts, panics, and then snaps awake. It's a fake out, but a purposeful one. The opening nightmare works as a thesis image. This is a movie about a narcissist whose world literally collapses once he's no longer the center of it. Back in his waking life, Tom goes through the motions, getting dressed, kissing Jane goodbye with the emotional depth of a handshake, and heads out. His childhood friend Jason comments on how absurdly fortunate he is. The wealth, the power, the endless supply of women. Jason is clearly positioned as the only person who actually remembers Tom as a human being, not a brand. At the office, Tom's job is essentially refusing to grow up. His father left him 51% of the company, enough to overrule the 7 board members who collectively hold the remaining 49% and treat him as a spoiled figurehead. They are stuck obeying his votes while quietly counting the minutes until they can prove he's unstable and shove him out. To keep that from happening, Tom hides behind his father's old lawyer, Thomas, who now functions as a human firewall between Tom and the vultures on the board. It's a clean corporate satire. A man-child in charge of a serious business, protected by legal armor instead of competence, surrounded by adults waiting for him to self-destruct. Then the script jumps hard. Tom is suddenly in a prison cell, face locked behind a rigid mask, accused of killing a young woman named Sarah. Across from him sits Dr. Howard, the court-appointed psychiatrist whose evaluation will decide whether Tom's future involves concrete walls or padded ones. The doctor reminds him sentencing is in 4 weeks and his report will be decisive, then gives Tom the cliché therapist line. "Tell me everything." Tom explodes, insisting he's innocent, that some invisible hand is framing him, and that he has no idea who's writing this nightmare. When pushed to start at the beginning, Tom narrates his own life like one of his father's novels. Famous dad, tragic crash, inherited company, 7 board members who must be thrilled he's now behind bars. In his mind, the moment he was arrested, the company glided neatly into their control. At that earlier point, though, Tom insists none of that corporate drama mattered. His only job was living as extravagantly as humanly possible. He threw endless parties in a tech-drenched penthouse where even the entertainment, holographic performers, audiovisual toys, felt more sci-fi than nightlife. At one such bash, his own birthday, Jason arrives with a friend, Sarah. Tom is instantly locked in. The script is brutally honest here. His girlfriend is literally in the room, but the second he sees Sarah, he rewrites the cast list. He tells Jane they were never serious, claims he didn't even invite her, and dumps her in front of everyone at his own party. Jane's reaction is raw humiliation and rage, and the film doesn't soften it. As Tom and Sarah flirt, Jane might as well be invisible. Tom then offers Sarah a tour of his space and pulls her into his private office, a recurring location that's supposed to be his real inner sanctum, though in practice it's mostly a high-end seduction zone. Jason tries to intervene, reminding Sarah it's late, but Tom overrides him, promising he'll take her home himself. Once they're alone, he shows her his paintings, and the conversation slows into something intimate. By the time he actually drives her home, the dynamic has drifted from casual flirtation into emotional territory. The film leans into that shift in a surprisingly tender way. They sketch each other. Sarah draws a silly cartoon version of Tom. He demonstrates unexpected talent with a striking portrait of her. It's the first hint that there's more under his polished, shallow exterior. She's moved, their connection deepens, and they sleep together. The next morning, Tom walks out to his car riding the high of someone who thinks he's finally stumbled onto something real. That's precisely when the script sends Jane back into frame, like cause and effect showing up for payment. She confronts him, devastated and angry, and he responds with pure irritation, as if her pain is an inconvenience on his way to work. She vents, then slides into almost desperate bargaining, asking him to go for a drive, offering to drop him at the office, still trying to negotiate a place in his life. This is where the film pivots. What started as a smug rom-com setup suddenly reconfigures into a psychological horror about consequences. In the car, Jane's polite mask falls apart. She starts pressing the accelerator harder, her emotions and the speedometer climbing together. She forces Tom into a corner. Swear you'll never see Sarah again, even if it costs both of you your lives. He does what he always does. He lies, promising to marry her if that's what it takes to survive the next 30 seconds. The script is merciless. The brakes fail, the car rockets off a bridge, and the casual fling he treated as disposable dies on impact. Tom lives, but his face and body are wrecked. He spends 3 weeks in a coma, tormented by recurring dreams of Sarah walking away from him, which play as both regret and obsession. When he wakes, he's essentially in a different movie. He can barely walk. His face is a stitched-together disaster, and he starts to suspect the board might have tampered with the car to get rid of their unstable majority shareholder. Whether that's paranoia or truth is left deliberately vague, but what matters is his mindset. He now lives in a thriller where he might be both the wronged hero and his own worst enemy. His ruined face becomes the externalization of all the damage he's inflicted on others. For once, his outer image matches the mess inside. Too ashamed to be seen, he hides from the office and runs the company via remote appearances. His lawyer warns him that if the board can prove he's mentally unfit, they can legally strip his controlling share and boot him. Tom needs to present himself as lucid and in control, but the confidence that once came so easily is gone. Instead of facing the world, he stalks Sarah from afar, watching her but refusing to approach, convinced that if she sees his disfigurement, she'll vanish. When he finally confronts his doctors, they explain that reconstructive surgery wasn't feasible while he was comatose and may never fully restore his face. Metal screws hold his skull and jaw together, triggering headaches and near blackouts. Tom tries the one move that has always worked for him. He offers unlimited money. For the first time, money says no. The chief surgeon hands him a silicone mask designed to prevent further tissue damage, a clinical solution that feels like a cruel joke. Tom rails against the idea of spending his life behind what amounts to a medical Halloween costume, but humiliation wins out. He takes the mask and hides. He spends days sealed inside his apartment, staring out at a city that still looks vibrant and carefree, while his own world has shrunk to a few dim rooms. His fear is corrosively simple. If Sarah looks at him now, will she recognize the man she connected with, or only the monster he believes he's become? Eventually, he decides uncertainty is worse than rejection. He puts on the mask and goes to her dance class. Sarah is stunned, then emotional. She admits she tried to find him, but he vanished without a trace. He confesses he didn't want to face himself, let alone her, and apologizes. She forgives him. They agree to meet for drinks. On paper, this should be the redemption beat where he starts rebuilding his life. The film refuses to make it that easy. When Tom shows up, Sarah has brought Jason, echoing the first night they met. She's irritated he's still wearing the mask, not understanding how raw his shame is. Jason joins in, teasing him to take it off like it's a party dare. Tom finally snaps. He points out that it's easy for them to say, just take it off. They're not the ones whose face is a war zone. His body, his trauma, his choice. The scene spirals into a drunken argument. Sarah storms out, and Tom staggers after her with slurred apologies that go nowhere. Jason is furious that Tom ran to Sarah before checking whether his best friend was okay. It's a rare moment where the film lets the supporting characters call out the main character's selfishness instead of enabling it. The pacing here feels intentionally jagged, mirroring Tom's slipping grip on his own story. Every time he reaches for stability, the edit undercuts him. He blacks out. The next morning, Sarah reappears acting even more loving than before, as if the fight never happened. Tom's life suddenly feels suspiciously ideal. Her affection is intact. His second chance seems secure. To sweeten it, his doctor calls with a miracle. A specialist in Germany claims he can fully restore Tom's face. The film plays this like a wish fulfillment montage you should not trust for a second. Tom undergoes a marathon surgery while, in the waiting area, that same odd man we've seen lurking at the edges of earlier scenes watches. After the operation, Tom is terrified to remove the mask. Sarah gently pushes him to look, promising she won't leave no matter what he sees. When he pulls it off, his face is flawless. Back to pre-accident Tom. She cries with relief. They embrace. The narrative briefly pretends we've arrived at a glossy, romantic reset. Reality, however, has other plans. As Jason encourages Tom to marry Sarah and enjoy his second life, Tom spots that strange man again, making the same subtle hand gesture. It's the exact figure he glimpsed around the surgery, and the repetition gives the moment an uncanny texture. Tom tries to ignore it, but the audience is on notice. The film is quietly swapping genres into full-blown mindbender. The next morning seals it. Tom wakes, strolls into the bathroom, and almost collapses. His face is mangled again, exactly as it was before the miracle. He screams. Sarah rushes in, horrified, and he wakes again. It was only a dream. He sprints back to the mirror. His face is still perfect. Relieved, he returns to bed, only to discover the woman beside him isn't Sarah at all. It's Jane. He spirals. He demands to know how Jane got there and where Sarah went. Jane responds like he's insane, insisting she's always been the one in his life. Tom hogties her in a panic, convinced she's an imposter, and interrogates her about Sarah, screams that he doesn't recognize her, and the more she insists she's his true lover, the more he believes she's part of some conspiracy. In his reality, Jane died in the crash. This woman must be helping the board gaslight him into madness. He calls the police, expecting them to validate his version. Instead, they arrest him for assaulting a woman. Money gets him out again, but the reputational damage is obvious. His lawyer Thomas shows him a photograph labeled Sarah, and the face in the picture is Jane's. Thomas keeps calling her Sarah and asking why Tom attacked her, while Tom swears he never laid a hand on Sarah and that this is Jane. At this point, the script fully commits to the idea that either the world is lying or Tom's perception is broken. Outside, a random man tells him everything he's experiencing is a game of the mind. Tom has no patience for cryptic strangers, especially because Jason immediately appears and shoves him, enraged that Tom hurt Sarah. Tom insists it was Jane. Jason insists Jane died years ago in the car crash. In Jason's reality, Sarah is alive and Tom assaulted her. Tom decides this has to be a hostile takeover plot, that Jason and the board are gaslighting him to drive him insane and seize the company. Jason is devastated that Tom could believe he'd sell out their friendship for a board seat and effectively cuts ties, telling him to keep his money and lose his friend. It's a neat emotional inversion. The guy who's coasted on charm for years suddenly finds that no one believes him when he actually needs faith. Staggering under the weight of his own confusion, Tom ducks into a bar and orders a drink. The mysterious man appears again, calmly insisting that Tom can control what's happening if he chooses, because all of this is determined by Tom's mind. Tom brushes him off with a sarcastic line about not being interested in men. The stranger answers by giving him proof. He tells Tom to shout for silence. When Tom yells at the crowd to shut up, the entire bar instantly obeys and falls quiet. This is the turning point where the film starts admitting that Tom's reality might be less shared world and more programmable environment. The man reminds Tom he signed a contract once and should remember what that means. Back with Dr. Howard, the psychiatrist asks who this stranger is. Tom admits he doesn't know. The doctor sidesteps that and pushes him to finish the story. Tom says he went to Sarah's place the next morning, determined to untangle the truth. But every framed photograph he saw showed Jane where Sarah should be. The universe appears to have overwritten one woman with the other. Sarah/Jane walks in, mistakes him for an intruder, attacks him, then apologizes when she sees who it is. She goes to the kitchen to make coffee. When she comes back, she is Sarah. Tom embraces her, demanding to know why she disappeared. They reconnect physically, but later, the illusion flickers again and he sees Jane in her place. This time, Tom snaps completely. Convinced he's trapped inside a sadistic shell game where reality keeps swapping faces, he suffocates her with a pillow. Only when she's dead does his perception shift again, and in that moment he feels that the person he killed was actually Sarah. From his cell, he asks Dr. Howard the question he's been dodging. If he did kill her, why can't he remember it clearly? Dr. Howard suggests a neat clinical explanation. Tom's mind may have fused Sarah and Jane into a single figure, and now his brain is protecting him from the full horror of what he's done by blurring the crime. He notes that if he labels Tom psychotic, the court will likely send him to a hospital instead of prison. A different kind of cage, but a cage forever. Then he leaves, treating Tom like just another textbook case. Left alone, Tom notices a TV playing a segment about a company called Life Extension, ELI. The logo and visuals trigger something in his memory. He demands to see the doctor again. When Dr. Howard returns, Tom begs to be taken to the place he saw on the screen. At the facility, Tom walks in and casually greets the receptionist by name, Levy, before she even introduces herself. He declares that he's been here before. Life Extension's representative explains their business model. They place a client's body into cryonic suspension, halting aging while the mind lives on in a designed lucid dream. People who are tired of their lives can choose to die into a custom simulation, complete with an idealized version of themselves and edited memories. Trauma can be deleted. Missing limbs can be restored. Each client even gets personal tech support to fix glitches in their dream world. It's essentially a high-end streaming service where the only content is your own fantasy life. And the subscription term is until the heat death of the universe. Tom suddenly recognizes the face of the mysterious man on a company screen and snaps, demanding to wake up. He calls for tech support like someone trying to exit a buggy video game. An elevator opens. Out steps the strange man, now officially identified as tech support, who calmly tells Tom that all of this has been explained to him before, on that night in the bar, and that Tom refused to accept it. On the ride up to the skyscraper roof, tech support delivers the real timeline. Everything Tom has described since his blackout happened 150 years ago. On the night Tom got drunk, fought with Sarah and Jason, and passed out, that's where his conscious life ended. In real life, he woke up, decided to stop hiding behind the mask, and tried to rebuild his life as a disfigured man. He ran the company, lived without Sarah, and survived. Eventually, the emptiness caught up to him. He came to Life Extension, signed their contract, overdosed on sleeping pills, and died. His body was frozen. His mind was moved into the lucid dream program. Life Extension erased all his memories between the blackout and his death, leaving his last real memory as collapsing after that awful night. Everything else, the miracle surgery, the face glitches, the murder, the trial, Dr. Howard, is part of a dream scenario his subconscious and the software built together. In the real world, the company staged a funeral. Sarah attended, cried, and went on with her life. She has been dead for roughly a century by the time tech support is talking to him. So Tom hasn't murdered anyone. The only person he actually killed was himself. The prison, the psychiatrist, the case. All of it is his mind dramatizing his guilt and fear into a narrative, with Life Extension system acting as an overly literal screenwriter. Tech support offers him a choice. The glitch in his dream has been identified and can be fixed. He can return to his fantasy world with a repaired face and a digital version of Sarah who will never leave him. Or he can jump, end the dream, and wake up in the actual future. A world where his money might be gone but technology can truly fix his face and he can live again, without illusions. On the rooftop, Dr. Howard appears and begs him not to jump, arguing that this reality is safer. It's then revealed that Howard himself is just another construct, modeled on Tom's father. A stern but familiar authority figure, his subconscious invented to interrogate him. The entire crime story was less about legal guilt and more about psychological denial. Tom's mind turned his abandonment of real life into an elaborate murder mystery, so he wouldn't have to face the simpler, more devastating truth that Sarah lived and died without him. Even the city around him is a mental repaint of a childhood painting his mother once made, a hint that his whole world has always been curated, not objective. Faced with that, Tom chooses truth over comfort. He knows that if he wakes, Sarah will be gone forever and everyone he remembers will exist only in history books. But after 150 years of sleeping inside a malfunctioning fantasy, reality finally sounds like mercy. Sarah appears one last time, offering him a seductive reason to stay. An endless dream where they can be together and nothing ever changes unless he wants it to. He kisses her goodbye and runs for the edge. He jumps. As he falls, images from his entire life flash around him like film reels being fed through a projector one last time. The city dissolves. The dream peels away. Just before impact, we cut to his eye opening in the real world. A voice gently tells him to open his eyes. The film ends not by telling him what he wakes up into, but by leaving him on the threshold, face to face with reality for the first time since he chose to abandon it. What began as a glossy Playboy drama morphs into a surprisingly bleak meditation on guilt, identity, and the human tendency to choose comforting illusions over painful truths, until those illusions turn into the real horror.